In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, again commenting on 75, has been widely reported. It says, ما معناه إن أراد الله أن يهلك عبدا نزع منه الحياء حتى تلقاه مقيتا ممقتا حتى تنزع منه الأمانة فإذا نزعت منه الأمانة لم تلقه إلا خائنا مخونا. That first, the hadith is much longer than this, but it's sort of paraphrasing the short version. That when Allah is angry at someone, it starts out with al-haya, with a sense of, haya is, a sense of shame or embarrassment about doing what's wrong. And first what goes is you become forward and brash about doing what's wrong. It's like, so what? And to the point that when you meet this person's, their psychology, their very aura changes until you find this person maqita mumqita, a person that has become so brash that it makes you, if you are among those who've turned your gaze towards God and surrender, who makes you feel uncomfortable, sort of eerie. They're disliked and they dislike others. They're hated and they hate others. In other words, this person becomes full of grievances against other human beings. If you sit with them, all they do is whine and complain about other people. In a nutshell, that's what it is. And they don't fill you with peace or tranquility. They fill you with anxiety because they're constantly irritated, annoyed, whatever. And that, then the worst stage, the Prophet ﷺ explains, is that the stage where the sense of honesty about truth and about amana, about trust, is taken away. So you can, now, can this happen while you are praying and fasting and doing? Absolutely it can. If your fasting doesn't penetrate beyond, if your praying doesn't penetrate beyond the movements you make, you can absolutely, that's why it is, ethics is a critical yardstick. You can interrogate yourself about whether you have haya or not, whether you've become a person who sort of prides themselves on being without shame. You can interrogate yourself as to whether you are full of grievances and you're constantly irritated and annoyed and judgmental about other people. Every time you start talking, you complain about other people. And you can interrogate yourself about whether you are a very honest person about your obligations, about your commitments, about what you're trusted with, your job, your everything that people entrust you with. Are you honest? And if you find that you are lacking, then you can recognize that your prayers are not as meaningful as they should be. It's not the other way around. It's not that you start saying, well, are my prayers meaningful? And then let's worry about my ethical character later. It is you examine your ethical character. If your ethical character is lacking, then go back to your ibadah. Because your ibadah has to be lacking. Regardless of what you might think or what people might tell you. I've known people who would pray every prayer in the mosque. Actually, I'm several people, too many people, who pray every prayer in the mosque. Back when I lived in Kuwait, there was a guy who every salah, even Fajr, in the mosque. But would often not pay his workers their salaries. He would withhold their salaries because he wanted to go on a trip to Cyprus for fun or take his family to Europe. He would not pay his people who work for him 2, 3, 4. In some cases, it went as long as 6 months without prayer. And if anyone complained, they would promptly get them deported. The same guy, if several lawyers that he hired, he drove them crazy for years before he paid what he owed them, and often it was after threats. And in one lawyer, he never did paid. This person would examine his prayer and probably say, I'm fine. I don't miss a prayer in the masjid. But it is his moral, his ethics, his conduct that should inform his assessment of his prayers. It works the other way. This is not a minor point, people. Because this is a point so often missed by modern Muslims. In fact, we are not raised to think that way, and that's part of the entire disaster, is that we're not raised to think that way.